The actor and his wife live in this Santa Fe gated community just north of 10,000 Waves. The Santa Fe Sheriff's Office filing this search warrant earlier today, detailing why deputies needed to go into Hackman's home and what they actually found when they went inside.
What else are investigators going to dig into? Maybe the cell phones, perhaps? What can be gleaned from the scene? What about at autopsy? And did you hear portions of their bodies had become mummified?
We're back with the Fox News alert. Authorities are still trying to determine how Hollywood legend Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy died. Police said yesterday the pair tested negative for carbon monoxide poisoning, and officials now think Hackman may have died 9 days before his body was found.
Police are working to obviously uncover this mystery. Can you go over how all of this unfolded and what we know up to this point?
Hey Mugo, yeah, it's just been an absolutely tragic story so far. We're in front of the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office right now, where it seems like the more information we get, the more mysterious this case becomes. Officials were first called out to the couple's home on Wednesday when that maintenance man who you just heard the call from had tried to contact the couple but was unable to reach them. That's when deputies went in and they found Hackman's body in the mudroom. It appears he may have fallen.
Life in Hollywood often carries an aura of glamour and legend, especially when it involves someone as revered as Gene Hackman. For decades, he dazzled audiences with memorable roles, received critical accolades, and then quietly slipped away from the spotlight. Most believed he'd chosen a serene retirement, far from cameras and chaos. But recently, the world was rattled by news about Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, found unalive under circumstances that left law enforcement puzzled and the public clamoring for answers. The very moment authorities stepped into the couple's secluded Santa Fe home, they sensed something was terribly off. It wasn't just that both individuals had passed away in separate rooms with no immediate explanation. There was also a deceased German shepherd in a nearby kennel, and yet 2 other dogs were wandering the property alive. There was no sign of forced entry, no obvious wounds, and no glaring crime scene details. What they did find were small but puzzling clues scattered around: a pair of sunglasses abandoned near Hackman's collapsed body, a walking cane resting at an odd angle, and an overturned space heater not far from Betsy. No single fact gave a clear picture, yet each detail hinted at the layers of strangeness that would keep investigators digging for answers. Initial theories landed on the possibility of carbon monoxide. That sort of invisible threat is known for silently claiming lives, especially in the colder months when heaters stay running. However, tests confirmed there was no presence of carbon monoxide in the couple's bodies, and further inspection by a local gas company only turned up one minor leak in the stove's burner. Far too insignificant to explain 2 people and a dog losing their lives at the same time. Friends, neighbors, and even longtime fans of Hackman were stunned. If carbon monoxide wasn't to blame, then what was? Authorities then revealed something that made the situation more perplexing. Early reports from the autopsies showed no signs of external trauma, no evidence of a break-in, and no immediate toxins in their systems. To complicate matters further, Hackman's pacemaker provided a critical timeline. According to investigators, the device registered its final event on February 17th. This pointed to the possibility that Hackman might have collapsed and passed away on that date. The fact that their bodies were discovered many days later only made the scene that much more unsettling. The pacemaker's data left one big question hanging in the air. If Hackman had truly passed away on the 17th, then how long did Betsy survive? After her husband collapsed? Or had she also succumbed around that same moment? As experts weighed in, the medical community offered contrasting theories. Forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden proposed that Hackman had likely suffered a sudden cardiac event. At 95 years old, the actor was known to have heart issues. He even had a pacemaker installed to regulate his condition. According to Dr. Baden, severe heart disease could have caused Hackman's abrupt collapse in the mudroom, leading him to fall and pass away with little warning. This scenario, while tragic, wouldn't normally raise so many eyebrows. But it was the simultaneous passing of Betsy that drew deeper scrutiny. Why would she also be found unalive, in a completely different part of the house, under circumstances that were equally puzzling? One idea put forward was that Betsy, upon discovering her husband in crisis, tried to rush for help or medication. In her panic, she might have lost her footing or suffered a catastrophic medical issue of her own. She was found on her side in a bathroom, with prescription pills scattered across a counter. An overturned space heater lay near her head, which may have contributed to intense heat around her body, speeding up signs of decomposition. Experts noted that her hands and feet showed partial mummification, an unusual finding that suggested the heat source remained near her body for days, accelerating the breakdown of soft tissue.
Officials are also saying they found a prescription bottle as well as pills scattered on the counter next to her, but they're not yet saying what those kind of pills were. As for the dogs, the dog that died, a German Shepherd, was locked in a kennel next to Arakawa's body, and officials also found 2 other dogs who were alive that were roaming around the property.
Still, there were nagging details that never quite fit the neat scenario of a double accident. Some investigators and commentators pointed out that one dog was discovered in a kennel, also unalive, while 2 other dogs roamed freely, apparently surviving on their own. If the couple had simply passed away from natural causes or small misfortunes, what specifically claimed the dog in the kennel? Why was it stuck there while the other animals managed to survive? This element added an unnerving layer, fueling rumors that something darker was at play. The public was also thrown off by swirling rumors of classified items found in Hackman's estate. A cursory mention in one news piece suggested the FBI had uncovered documents of questionable origin. Fans questioned whether Hackman, once at the pinnacle of the film industry, could have possessed sensitive materials or private archives. Was this all part of a separate investigation? Authorities kept silent on those specifics, neither confirming nor denying. That hush from official channels only stoked the imagination of onlookers who relished the intrigue of a Hollywood legend harboring well-kept secrets behind a gated residence. Neighbors remembered that Hackman and Betsy had become increasingly reclusive in recent years. They rarely hosted visitors, declined interviews, and seemed uninterested in social events. Mail sometimes piled up outside until a maintenance worker or curious neighbor stopped by. There were no known major confrontations with the law, no reason to suspect any financial or personal vendettas. Yet in the aftermath of their passing, local law enforcement deemed the scene suspicious enough in nature to conduct a thorough search. One might assume that a peaceful retirement implies no drama, but investigators stated they wanted to rule out every possibility, no matter how remote. Additional speculation arose around the presence of the space heater. Some posited that a heater could malfunction or cause lethal conditions in a closed-off space, but the coroner's findings ruled out carbon monoxide, leaving only the possibility of it accelerating decomposition. A few pointed out that if Betsy had fallen and the heater tumbled over, it might have provided significant heat over many days, effectively creating conditions that made her body deteriorate unusually fast. This explained the strange combination of bloating and partial mummification, but it still didn't close the loop on why or how Betsy herself lost consciousness, or whether an internal injury, undetectable on the outside, brought her life to an abrupt end. Dr. Michael Baden went a step further, mulling over the possibility of an internal head injury. If Betsy hit her head on a sink or countertop, there could be brain trauma that wouldn't always show an immediate external wound. Intracranial bleeding or swelling might remain hidden without a thorough autopsy, which would be complicated by the fact that the bodies had been discovered so late. Decomposition can obscure signs that would otherwise be obvious if found sooner. Then there was the deeper question. If she saw Hackman on the floor and panicked, might her own medical condition, perhaps high blood pressure or an undisclosed illness, have caused a sudden collapse? Meanwhile, Dr. Joseph Scott Morgan, a distinguished professor of applied forensics, stressed that multiple passings in the same residence, absent toxins or external injuries, is exceedingly rare. His experience as a medical examiner in Atlanta and as a coroner in New Orleans didn't include many cases where 2 people, let alone a pet, lost their lives without a clear cause. He emphasized that carbon monoxide or other toxins are usually to blame in such tragic coincidences. Now that carbon monoxide was ruled out, the entire incident belonged to a far more unusual category. In the midst of these conflicting viewpoints, details kept surfacing that sent news outlets into a frenzy. One anchor mentioned an open prescription bottle near Betsy's body, though no official statement identified the medication. Rumors bubbled up about the possibility of an intentional double demise, a scenario in which the couple agreed to go together. But seasoned investigators found little evidence to support that. Historically, such pacts leave more obvious clues, whether in the form of notes, consistent staging of the bodies, or a definitive overdose pattern. Instead, the entire layout of the Hackman residence told a story of chaos: pills scattered on a counter, a door left ajar, a dog locked in a kennel, while two others seemed free to roam. Fans also questioned the idea that an older couple could simply vanish from contact for so many days, unnoticed, especially in a gated community where neighbors are often vigilant. But the property's size and the couple's reclusive habits made it entirely possible nobody realized something was wrong until a maintenance worker tried to check in. Both Hackman and Betsy were described by acquaintances as private individuals who preferred solitude and rarely ventured out. That alone could explain why no one noticed the absence of phone calls or mail pickups. As more official reports rolled in, investigators revealed they were still awaiting comprehensive toxicology tests. It's not uncommon for final results to take weeks or even months, especially if there's a need to screen for less common substances. While preliminary tests for carbon monoxide or obvious narcotics might come back swiftly, a full panel can uncover less typical agents that might play a role in unexpected passings. Yet nothing pointed directly to an unusual toxin. Those who believed in the possibility of something sinister found themselves lacking any concrete proof. Speculations didn't stop with the dog or the pills. Some latched onto a rumor about secret visitors who may have dropped by the Hackman residence days before their bodies were found. However, law enforcement made no mention of additional footprints, signs of forced entry, or suspicious vehicles in the area. Others whispered about the classified items, wondering if they involved old Hollywood controversies, incomplete scripts, or even sensitive government documents. That rumor alone captured the imagination of countless fans, but not a single official statement confirmed that anything of the sort had been seized. It remained pure conjecture, fueling a storm of theories online. Meanwhile, forensic teams combed through the house, photographing every nook and cranny, collecting samples and scrutinizing the couple's personal effects for any clue. They discovered the property's mail stacked up, some packages unopened, reinforcing the idea that a significant length of time had passed since the couple had any contact with the outside world. A few neighbors reported glimpses of Gene and Betsy weeks prior, though none recalled any emergencies or heated confrontations. On the surface, everything seemed normal. In the end, that very normality became its own puzzle. How could a legendary actor and his wife both meet mysterious ends in such an uneventful setting? As the investigation deepened, echoes of Gene Hackman's career played across news segments. Everyone remembered his iconic roles, from his powerful turn in The French Connection to his unforgettable presence in Unforgiven. One old interview clip resurfaced where Hackman mused on mortality, admitting he hoped to ensure his wife and family would always be cared for. That sentiment, heartfelt at the time, gained a somber ring in light of the tragic revelations. He was a beloved figure, both in Hollywood and among Santa Fe locals who occasionally spotted him around town. No one would have guessed his final days would become the center of such an eerie puzzle. Some media personalities, including gossip veterans, seized the moment to speculate on deeper controversies or hidden feuds. But even they struggled to pinpoint any tangible evidence of wrongdoing. The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office maintained that they were keeping all options on the table, but offered no particular reason to believe a crime had been committed. They labeled the circumstances suspicious enough to warrant a meticulous search, yet that designation often applies whenever an investigator encounters a scene that defies immediate explanation. While the initial flurry of headlines centered on suspected carbon monoxide or hidden toxins, the conversation gradually shifted toward natural causes, tragic accidents, and the specter of advanced age. Experts like Dr. Baden and Dr. Morgan underscored how quickly a situation can escalate for elderly individuals, especially if one tries to help the other, and in the process falls victim to a sudden complication. If Betsy, for example, had heart issues or a medication miscalculation, she might have lost consciousness with no one else present to intervene. That might not sound sensational, but real life can be far more unassuming and just as heartbreaking than any scripted drama. Even so, the presence of that deceased dog continued to loom as an odd inconsistency. Tox screens on the animal could reveal if it ingested something harmful, but initial checks didn't point to a widespread poisoning in the home. Neither the other dogs nor any neighbors reported symptoms of toxicity. Some wondered if that dog was older or already unwell, and its death simply overlapped with the chaotic timing of the tragedy. Unfortunately, without a conclusive statement from veterinary experts, it remains another fragment of the puzzle that keeps fueling online chatter. In the days following the discovery, the story became a magnet for theories. Some believed the couple might have orchestrated a joint decision to leave the world, while others suggested a bizarre chain of medical misfortunes. A few pointed to the so-called classified items as a potential motive for foul play. Yet there's been no reputable indication that anything like a break-in or forced entry occurred, nor did the bodies show signs of assault or direct violence. If the couple had reason to fear for their lives, they never voiced it to anyone close to them. Gradually, the official narrative settled around the notion that Hackman's pacemaker captured the last heartbeat on February 17th. Investigators began reconstructing a timeline, checking phone records, credit card transactions, and any security footage from the gated community. They hoped to discover whether Betsy had left the house for supplies or if either of them had medical appointments in the days prior. The scarcity of new leads only deepened the tragedy, because every angle pointed to a sudden, unexpected conclusion for a couple who had lived quietly on their own terms. As more tests trickled in, the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office made it clear that conclusive results would take time. They also stressed that, while the circumstances were indeed unusual, not every mystery comes with a sensational revelation. There are moments when medical events collide and private lives are exposed in heartbreaking ways. This house was meant to be their sanctuary, a place where two people in love could age at their own pace, far from the spotlights that had once burned so brightly in Gene Hackman's career. Instead, it became the locus of a deeply unsettling puzzle that might never be fully solved to everyone's satisfaction. The final chapter of this story may rest on the toxicology reports and a careful reading of both Hackman's and Betsy's medical histories. If the data reveals no toxins, no suspicious substances, and no hidden injuries, the most likely explanation will remain that Hackman's heart disease led him to collapse, while Betsy suffered a catastrophic accident or health crisis of her own. For some fans, that's too simple and leaves too many questions unanswered, but detectives often remind the public that real life can be both mundane and tragic at the same time. As you reflect on this bewildering case, consider the fragile gap between what we assume about someone's life and the realities hidden behind locked doors. Hackman was famous for roles that revealed the grit and complexity of human nature. Ironically, the final curtain on his own life has proven just as confounding. Did he have secrets tucked away, or was he simply a retired icon longing for peace? Was Betsy desperately trying to save him, or was she, too, caught in a separate medical crisis at the worst possible moment? No matter what the forensic evidence eventually confirms, the entire episode reminds us how little we truly know about the private battles others might face. Only time, and perhaps a thorough official statement, will clarify the last missing pieces. Until then, we're left to weigh the possibilities and wonder whether any new discoveries will emerge. Many remain fixated on the speculation about classified items, but law enforcement has gone quiet on that topic. Friends and extended family hope that the final investigation will honor the couple's memory and bring some measure of closure. For a legend like Gene Hackman, no one expected his final story to be shrouded in such profound ambiguity. The takeaway is both haunting and thought-provoking. Tragedies can unfold even in the quiet corners of life, untouched by cameras or the public eye, leaving a trail of unsettled questions in their wake. It's a sobering reminder that even someone with a powerful Hollywood legacy is not immune to the frailties of age or the random cruelties of circumstance. As investigators continue to piece together the puzzle, The rest of us are left to ponder how the line between fact and rumor can become blurred in the face of grief, uncertainty, and a hunger for sensational answers. What do you believe happened behind those closed doors? Was it a tragic combination of timing and existing health conditions? Or is there still something hidden beneath all the rumors and contradictions? Share your thoughts and keep a watchful eye on official updates. The truth might be more ordinary than we suspect. Or perhaps it's far more astonishing than any script Hollywood could have conjured. Either way, the story of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa stands as a sobering reflection on how sudden and unexplainable life's final act can be, even for those who once seemed larger than life.